So we recently did an episode about addiction, and honestly, it was my favorite episode. Um, and not being from here and seeing the whole mile of Methadone Mile, it was literally when I left Georgia, I was watching The Walking Dead, and to come here and to see that whole mile is like, wow, it's like it's real and it's in person. So how do you feel about
So they look like zombies.
it's scary, but it's
Yeah,
it's
it
it's,
kinda
it's
is.
scary. How do you feel about, or what's your experience with homelessness and addiction in Boston?
Yeah, it's heartbreaking.
Yeah.
People that, you know, imagine in your most desperate moment, in your most desperate time, and imagine not, no divine intervention or the universe, whatever, not saving you. Imagine falling, and imagine the fall was drugs. And then imagine that the drugs taking over your body and where you have no autonomy. And I think in every way, if anything, it's a way for us to really truly look within ourselves as a society, but as individuals too. Like, we are all connected, all interconnected, and we should look at this as our problem. And I think that a lot of the times, people just don't want to see it, right? And so, but also when you do see it, say someone got shot and they were bleeding, and you would say, oh, they have an injury.
Yeah.
Immediately, your reaction is to put them in a hospital bed. And so we're not treating it like that.
Right.
Because there are either not enough hospital beds or not enough, or people don't want it in their neighborhood. And then all of this politics about where to go. The problem is that they've put it all in Roxbury.
So it was intentionally placed there.
Well, I mean, it's always placed in places where they think that they can get away with or less noise. So BMC is right there.
Yeah.
And, the clinics and the treatments are right there. But then, it starts like in a condensed area, and you condense that population in one area. And then it's not decentralized, like the services are not decentralized. So then it grows and it grows. And then people are coming for, then the message travels where you can get your treatment, where you can get what you can get. And then eventually it becomes a place where predators, and by predators I mean drug dealers and pimps, can exploit and prey on the weak.
Wow. Yeah.
Right?
That
So
makes
people
sense.
are sick and they have no bodily autonomy. Like, literally they can't. It's physically addictive, it's mentally addictive. Like, you're in it, right? And you're at your lowest. And so, like, for anyone, I think, that looks at it like, oh my God, those people, like, obviously, like, what kind of person would kick somebody at their lowest,
Right.
And then that's one. And two, I think, it's decentralizing the services so that we're not focusing and like having one area where drug dealers know to go, and they probably dress like them, and I don't know, camouflage themselves.
Oh, like wolves in
Infiltrating.
sheep clothing.
Oh yeah, they're there, and you'll know if you're from the hood, like if you grew up in the hood, or officers, they all know who the drug dealers are. They all know, and when you go to Atkinson Street and you see these tents like side by side, you can't see through it because these tents are like next to each other, literally. And so you don't know what's going on inside the tents. You don't know what's going on behind the tents.
Yeah.
They got the zippers, so it's completely sealed. Technically, now the encampment becomes their home. So there's all of these like, rights, civil rights about like, not encroaching or not violating their rights.
Wow.
And so the police officers, there's a medium here that I think we should reach. The officers are saying that they can't go into tents because they don't want to violate.
Yeah.
But at the same time, there are situations that are not inside tents, and officers are still like doing the detail. And I'm not sure, like, it goes back and forth. You go to Boston Public Health Commission. Boston Public Health Commission says, the officers need to be more active, doing more walking beats, supporting the workers to to implement safety so that they can actually execute their work services. And then the police officer says, BPHC is just not doing enough. And then you hear both sides saying the same thing, and you're like, wait a minute. Like, well, so who's not doing their job?
Right.
But coming from a public health perspective, like an experience, I know that situation is not safe. There was no way that I would tell, like if I was a manager, I would tell a social worker, go in that tent or go knock on that tent, you and maybe an outreach worker, and then the officer that's sitting in his car.
Right.
And full transparency, I got my phone back. So I was in that area and my phone got taken.
Yeah.
And it's
It
like,
got taken?
There's a news article about that, right?
I thought you knew what I was talking about.
What you mean? Somebody took it?
Yeah.
There's a news article about that.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
But you got it back.
Yeah, he started getting a little aggressive. This person, I know him. I've gone there a lot. Like me and either like different people. I don't want to say, but you're there to give out stuff. You're there to do work. You're there to do service, and so I know him to be hyper, but I don't know him to be aggressive. And this day, like typically when he comes, he's like pushing somebody in a wheelchair. He's helping someone.
Yeah.
He's always nice. He's always looking out for the ladies too.
Okay.
And not in like the other way, like not the pimp way, but this on this day, I think he said he forgot who I am because the very next day I knew where to find him. So the next day, I drove by and I was like, "Hey, why did you do that?" And he, because the police is like, "Oh, so do you know who he is?" No.
Yeah.
No, you don't need that.
Yeah,
but I was like, "Hey, why did you do that?" And he's like, I'm sorry. I know you're the lady with the, with the red pickup truck. Like everybody knows me for the red pickup truck." And I was like, "Yeah, well, why? You know me. Like, come on, man. Like me and you. Like, come on." And he's like, I'm sorry. But this is while he's like about to inject and everything. And it is what it is. Like, obviously it's a disease. Like, do you think that's what people want to do in front of you?
That part.
Like, people are desperate.
Right.
People are hurting.
That's right.
But I think, yeah, okay, let's remove the tents.
Yeah.
But what is the comprehensive plan that we're going to guarantee or ensure the community, community safety, but also like how are we going to contain this thing?
Right.
How will we follow up with them when they disperse? So
that part.
The questions to Mayor Wu and the administration is, what is the investment for that plan? Because although as a mayor, I agree with Mayor Wu. Like, she has to focus on Long Island Bridge. She has to focus on that. That's the long-term plan. But the interim plan then has to include some level of investment to contain this thing, to manage this thing. And I think that I'm not convinced that, or at least the process is not over. We've gone to a hearing. We're going into a working session on the 16th. And so we're going to talk about what does the plan look like? I've asked Boston Public Health Commission to bring it in writing.
Yeah.
And so that plan is where we go, okay, these are the metrics that we want you to implement. These are ideas that we think you can follow up with them and find them, but that requires a certain level of financial, like fiscal investment, right? So what's the budget for it's not just the shelters. I think that they should do methadone 24/7 vans. I think that they should also bring the court system in a van, a mobile court team. I think that they should also be able to bring, they should also have like long-term treatment. So it's not just, 30-day bed, 90-day beds, but it's, creating like, I don't know, maybe it's urban farm where people live and work.
That's good.
Like, and heal.
That's sustainable.
And heal.
Yes.
So there are a lot of ideas, and I think that can be done in Long Island too, right? But that's the long term. So what is the investment for now? And that question is not answered yet. Not that it hasn't been answered. Not that it hasn't been asked, but what is the sustainable short-term plan in the interim while we know they're going to disperse and go into our backyards and our doorsteps? How are we going to contain that? Like, how are we going to manage and help people get to treatment? I used to work for the Department of Mental Health. And I'm telling you that all of my clients there would actually go to Mass Ave. At 8 in the morning, you wouldn't even see them. Where's so-and-so? Oh, it probably, and then I would drive home around like my shift is off, and then I would go home and I would see them there. So I agree with Boston Public Health Commission. I think that they're accurate in saying that, half of the people there are not homeless.
Oh, wow.
Wait,
crazy.
that's what they said?
They're not homeless.
What you mean?
They're just chilling there. Oh, man. Like it's an opportunity.
Why you laughing at? They ain't like, what?
Yeah.
So they actually got homes to go to, and they just there so that they could get what they got to get?
Does it sound like something typically like you wouldn't do? Like if you have a home, you go home, right?
Right.
Yeah. So people.
That's crazy.
They're to take advantage of the system, or
people are just not. They don't have like one diagnosis. They're not just suffering from addiction.
Oh, okay.
A lot of them suffer from mental illness.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And sometimes it's not like like a hardcore disorder. It could be
Right.
like just severe, like just depression, and it's easier to be in that environment and be accepted. There's a lot of
that's deep.
That actually makes sense.
yeah. So the reason why I used to go to Mass and Cat, I never told people this, but I went with my transgender friends to work with the transgender population there, and so
That's good.
yeah, and so there's that population too that prefers being there. Than in areas where they're not accepted. So it's multifaceted, and there's so many complexities to this.
It's a whole other world. It's like a world within a world.
Yeah, yeah. The what hurts is like a lot of people are like, we're treating this with little gloves, like velvet gloves, and we're like, oh, poor, because they're white. Like that's what people say, because they're white. You're treating this opioid epidemic like it's like they're babies. But when it was crack and it was black people doing it or suffering or preyed upon or exploited, right? When it was black people that we criminalized them and we sent them to prison.
Yes,
and we didn't treat it like this. And we didn't invest in it. And we didn't say, oh, it's a disease. We didn't do that. And that we dehumanized black people, right? And it's true. But the difference is like maybe we're evolving. Maybe it's not that we are seeing that today they're white and that's what we're doing. Maybe we're evolving in our thinking. And I'm hoping that that's what it is. That now we're like, wait a minute, this is a disease. Because the mass and caste is becoming slowly more and more black and brown. Right? So like as you remove the tents, like more as of late, it's becoming more black and brown.